Hey guys, how are you? It's Max Powers, American Rover, and this is another episode of my quarantine kitchen. Today what I'm going to do, I'm just cooking steak. Everybody knows how to cook a steak. Everybody has their own way to cook a steak. So I'm going to more give you a tour of my quarantine kitchen. For those of you who know, I spend a lot of my time not in a basement, but traveling around New England in, there we go, that's much better, in my overlander, which is a big old Land Rover with a rooftop tent, and that's where I stole this kitchen from. So this is the stove from my Land Rover with a range. It's got an oven, it's got 2 burners, it works on propane. It's really just a great little oven, actually. High is way too high. Low, a lot of times with gas stoves on low, there's a lot of heat generated. This generates the heat, but not enough to really burn things. I really like, it's a Magic Chef. No, it's a Camp Chef, excuse me. Oven, and it's really not that expensive. I think I got it on Amazon for like $150, and it's been well worth it. I've used it. I guess I've had it for just about a year now. So, really nice oven. My cookware is also from my Land Rover. It's a really nice set of, not that nice. I think it was $70 on Amazon again. Jeff Bezos, who's right now making $9 million an hour. So that's probably like 1 million times what his employees are making during this, who are out there catching the coronavirus and all that. So anyway, not a political commentary. Yes, apparently it was. But these are just a nice stainless steel set of Cuisinart cookware. Just a skillet, 2 saucepans, 1 large, 1 small, and then a big stock pan. And they work phenomenally well. Nice even heat on things. My only problem is I'm noticing, and this has been since I've been inside, the gas is starting to yellow my my stainless. So that's too bad. But they work phenomenally well. This rack here is not from my Land Rover. It is because this was my art studio. I used to stack my paints on that next to my easel. And it was on a little wheelie thing, which is under my fridge, so that I can slide it under that table and it'll be out of my way for dining. And I don't know, in case we break out into contra dancing, I'm not exactly sure what we'll be doing. Yeah, I'm going to show you some more that's on the counter here, but we're going to put the camera at a better angle before I do it. All right, not really sure if you can see me in this light, but I don't feel like breaking out my studio lights right now, so you'll have to live with it. This, my kitchen. I have shown you this range. Other things that I've got here. My thermos. Very important on the road. I make my coffee, not in this pot. Oops. But in this. This is a big old percolator, stainless steel percolator. You're probably hearing that through the mic. Big old stainless steel percolator. I make a full pot on the road every morning. I sit by the campfire usually, and drink it. And I fill this for most of the rest of the day. I think this was $9 at IKEA, and it's a great thermos. It'll keep my coffee hot all day long. Coffee, very important. I have a nice stainless steel vacuum sealed decanter. It's not a decanter, but you know what I'm saying. And then, while I'm home with electricity, I have a very small pot My brother-in-law Jim introduced me to it. He's got one in his kitchen. It's not fancy, it just does the job. I put coffee grinds in and water. I hit a button, and like 5 minutes later, I have a pot of coffee. It's really good. I don't have to worry about it sitting and collecting germs like everybody's Keurig. If it breaks, I think I paid $10 at Walmart. I can go out and get another one. Boom. No problems there. We went over my oven. One thing I didn't talk about was the oven portion of it. And basically it runs the same way the gas burners on my stove run. So you've got a low and high setting. So you don't get to set it at a temperature like 400 degrees. From using it for a year, I know where those things are. Like I know that for 400, I want to put it right about over here. And that the oven will heat up in about 10 or 15 minutes to 400 degrees. Uses just about the same amount of gas as if I were using a burner. So it's really not that bad. The thing I have to watch is the thermometer on it, because after I close the door with the food in, that thermometer steadily rises. Actually, for you, it's probably like this, huh? There we go. But that thermometer steadily rises. So you just keep an eye on it and you adjust the temperature here, or the gas flow here, and keep it around that temperature. Generally not a problem. However, like brownies, something that takes a long time to cook, it's going to go up. You have to keep an eye on it, and that can be a pain. So that's my oven. I've got a fridge. I'll go over that. That also came from the Land Rover. It's a 12-volt fridge. I think it's an 87-quart fridge and freezer, and it's phenomenal. But before I go over that and how I use it and what have you, my little paint rack here. So, where should I start? You know, I got a set of dishes. Those came out of the Rover. If you're living on the road, I don't know if I'm reducing my carbon footprint or not, but I definitely don't want to eat off of paper plates every night. So I have a cheap set of like Christmas tree shop china. I think it was like $4 for a place setting, you know, not too bad. I've got 4 because it's just me. And every once in a while, I don't want to do the dishes that night. I still want to eat breakfast off a plate in the morning. So I got a full set of silverware. Once again, it's real silverware. I have a bin in the truck where I can tuck all this stuff in, and it's got rubber around it so I don't hear the rattles. It travels well. I haven't broken anything in a year, so that's awesome. Basic utensils, can openers, peelers, all the things that you would need, but not overdone. I don't need a pineapple peeler if I eat pineapple once a year. I would rather have the neatness and the space for something that I would use every day rather than having things like that. Apple slicers, pineapple peelers, what have you. Let's see what else. My knife set. This is my basic knife set. It is an IKEA knife set that I bought, 12 years ago down in Florida, 10 years ago down in Florida. It's IKEA. It was wicked cheap. But it's lasted me this long, and they are sharp. And I keep them sharp. I cut on a wooden cutting board. I don't cut on metal. I don't cut on glass. Just cut on wood and your knives will last you. These are decent knives. They're not great knives, but they work pretty well. Ultimately, I don't need them all. These are the only 2 that I would really say I need: a chef's knife and a good paring knife. I've got serrated knives. I've got, I don't know what this is, but I've got one of these. And I don't need all that. All I really need are these 2 knives. So I may pardon me with my back to you. Scaled down someday to just those 2 knives, but I really like this one. This is a funky bread knife. I have some issues with my fine motor skills, and sometimes cutting, I end up with a problem cutting because my knuckles hit the cutting board, and so the knife doesn't go all the way through the food. And this, I think every knife should be like this. This is just a great handle on a bread knife. I don't eat bread. I don't know why I carry it, but it's a cool knife. Other storage items. In the freezer, which I will show you when we go over the fridge, I use a lot of saran wrap and baggies. The less air that gets to your food, the longer it's going to keep, and the better preserved it will be. I don't like freezer burnt food, so I wrap it really tightly in saran wrap, and then I put that in a Ziploc bag and I seal it and I put it in. It's a little wasteful, but I try and make up for it on this end. When I have leftovers that are going in the fridge, I put them in glass. These are bamboo lids. They seal nicely and they stack really well, so I get optimal use out of my fridge. Okay. I'm going to move on to spices, but a couple things I didn't show you. I got a little stool under here. I put a bus bucket on that, put my dishes in that. That is a quarantine kitchen thing. It is not something that I do out in my truck. I do use the bus buckets. I just don't have the stool there. That's from my art studio. I don't know if you can see all the paint on that. Okay, over here, big garbage can with a bag. I just slide it out when I need it. Slide it back under when I'm done. Simple, easy. It's right by the cutting board, right by the oven. It's handy. Okay. Spices. What do I use for spices? Well, we'll start with my oils. Instead of olive oil, I've been using avocado oil because of the keto diet. It's got good fat. If you have MS, it's the kind of fat that your body can use to rebuild the myelin sheath, the kind of fat that it uses to reproduce myelin sheath. I'm old, so they say my brain does not do it, but just in case I can kick it in to starting to do it, I want to make sure that it has all the things that it needs. So you would use this like in a frying pan before I cook things, like these steaks, which is really 2 ends and a very small piece of steak, which I've got the avocado oil, sea salt, and black pepper on. And I'm letting it come down to room temp, then I'll cook it for dinner. You're probably not going to see that though. But I use the avocado oil for that. And there's a reason for that. Coconut oil on a cold steak will start to get hard, and if you put salt and pepper on it, like most people do, or your seasoning, whatever you use, Montreal seasoning, garlic powder, whatever, it will stick to that coconut oil and not the steak. So you're not flavoring the steak like I am right now. The coconut oil acts as a barrier between the spices and your food, so it's not absorbing that flavor. When you cook it, it will, except you put it on a cold steak. So the coconut oil, whether you use it this way or the spray-on kind, this is a solid, this is a spray-on, this is really handy for frying pans, but it will get solid on your cold food, and it will stick to everything but the steak. So if you put it on a plate, the side that's touching the plate is going to stick to the plate. So the avocado oil works much better if you're coating meats with spices. That being said, boy, this is good stuff. I have stainless steel cookware, and using coconut oil on stainless steel cookware forms like a non-stick barrier. It's amazing, unless you heat it way too high. And coconut oil, you can do that. It'll get brown and gross. If that happens, I recommend starting over. It's take you 2 minutes to melt coconut oil again. But if you turn your back on the pan and you're one of those people who loves high heat, that's probably going to happen. To spray coconut oil every morning for my eggs, I do that. You probably saw the screen door behind me with the plastic over it in the last video. There's not the greatest insulation down here. It ends up bulk of the time in the 50s, and I love that. I'm not a hot weather kind of guy. Give me the cold weather. But coconut oil, especially in the spray kind here, especially in the nozzle, will get solid. So I run it quickly under some hot water. It loosens it up. I coat the bottom of the pan. It takes 2 minutes to heat up, and I can fry my eggs on low heat, and they come out, they almost look like a poached egg. And they slide right out of the pan with virtually no cleanup. So if you're cooking eggs and your pan's messy, it's because you're cooking them too hot. This is olive oil. If you have heart issues, cholesterol issues, any kind of health issues, you should not be cooking with olive oil. However, you should be getting at least 10 milliliters a day. It's very good for you raw. You can drizzle it over salad. You can use it to mix your tuna. In the morning, I have an avocado that I mush up, and I drizzle this right over it with a little salt and pepper, and then I put the egg on top of that. I cut it all up, and it's delicious. But olive oil is key. This is Trader Joe's olive oil. It's a Spanish olive oil. They sell this particular one in 3 kinds: Spanish, Greek, and Italian. The Spanish is very sweet. The Italian has a little more spice to it. And the Greek, I don't know, because I really don't like Greek olive oil. There's something to it. I know that sounds weird, but it's a flavor thing. This is olive oil that I use to cook. I know I told you not to. It is a spray on olive oil from Trader Joe's, and sometimes I want to brown things. Sometimes I want to brown them in the oven. And I just spray this over the top of like chicken thighs, or that's about the only thing I want to brown in the oven. But I use this as a spray. When we cook with olive oil, it forms trans fats. Saturated fats. It forms a fat you don't want. You know? Damn it, Jim. I'm a cook, not a doctor or something like that. I don't know. Okay, my salts. 2 salts. Sea salt. I have no table salt. I never use table salt. I really don't salt much except for meat before I cook it. Cauliflower because it needs it. Just a few things like that. So I have a white sea salt in a grinder. And I have a Himalayan pink. The Himalayan pink I got because it's got certain minerals that apparently I need. What those minerals are, I don't know. Whether or not this brand has them, I don't know. But supposedly, it's good for you, so I use it. It seems to be much saltier than the white salt. But it's also a finer grain when I grind it in this, so I don't know if that has anything to do with it. But I've got it if I need it. Excuse me. Other than that, you know, I've got your basics, like this is an herbs de Provence. It's from Trader Joe's. It's, I think, a little lavendery, and it's pretty good. Great on pork, great for sauces, great for that, you know, fall meal. I toss this if I'm making like a beef bourguignon or a coq au vin. This is what I add from, instead of a little bouquet, I just take a little spoonful. Be careful not to use too much. This comes with a little spoon on it, and it's just about the perfect amount for a big thing of like a beef bourguignon or a coq au vin. Things like garlic powder, ginger, generic seasoning salts. I have a lot of cinnamon because I put that in my coffee because it's very good for you. This is an extra pepper mill. You can put spices in here, you can put whatever you want, and then you can crack it over your food, or if you're clumsy like me and you drop this and it breaks the top, you have an extra top. They're good to have around. Other things I keep in my kitchen, beef broth or chicken broth. I'm out of the chicken broth. Old Bay. So Trader Joe's used to make this chicken seasoning, which I loved. Couldn't find it. I'm on to Old Bay, a little bit of garlic powder, a little salt and pepper, and I'm getting closer with my ratios. This one I love. It is a barbecue coffee rub from Trader Joe's. Goes great, like I cake it onto like a pork loin, and you can either grill it or sear it. You can even roast it in the oven, and it comes out great. If you want to add a little maple syrup to it, that's good too. Other than that, I've got like my ashwagandha, my maca root. I've got a thing of cocoa here. Just things to keep around. The cocoa and the liquid stevia, an egg, you know. Yeah, there's a few other ingredients. I'll give you that recipe sometime. Can make a great cake if you're like a sweet person and you need a little something and you're trying to go keto and you can't. Good stuff. Actually, the cocoa's the good stuff. I don't really like the stevia. You can say what you want about it. It's cheap, it's easy to find, and it makes food that should be sweet palatable. So that's my spice rack. Wooden cutting boards. Got one here. I've got 2 small wooden cutting boards. I think they're from IKEA. And these are Swedish sandwich plates. They're nice, I think it's a cherry wood, nicely sanded and oiled. And it's a nice thing to throw a snack on. So that's that part of the kitchen. I'm gonna go onto the fridge, show you what I have in there. So now on to the important stuff. This is my 12-volt fridge. It has an adapter that will plug into my cigarette lighter. And as I drive to the mountains, my fridge is cold the whole way. I usually go up, I stop at a Trader Joe's, like in southern New Hampshire. It's nice and cold by the time I get there, load it up, head for the mountains. And once I get to the campsite, I set up solar panels and my Goal Zero Yeti 400, and that will power it overnight, which is pretty good. So when I go out on the trail, I hook the panels up to it, and the panels can lock to the truck so no one can walk away with them, and it's charging all day, filling the batteries both on this, there's a small set in here, and on the Goal Zero, and that's enough power to run it overnight. My problem that I've been facing is with rainy days or shady campsites, but I'm going to add some batteries to my Yeti, and that should make it all right. So it's got 2 zones. I can have a freezer, or I can have 2 fridges, or I can have 2 freezers. Freezer eats a lot of wattage. So right now I've got it set at minus 15 degrees Celsius because all the meats that I was putting in weren't freezing. I could probably bring it back up closer to 0, but I'm using 120 volts, so it's sucking, as a 12-volt fridge, it's sucking virtually no power. So what do I have inside it? The freezer is the bigger half. It doesn't have as much room as it looks because the compressor's under this part of it. So a little shelf down here. And on that shelf, because it's really, really cold, I put my meats. So there's some hamburger, there's some scallops, this is some chicken. And I'm not showing off my meats, but what I do is when I come home from the supermarket, I process, or sometimes in the parking lot in southern New Hampshire, Trader Joe's, I cut everything down to a serving size. And that way they're all portioned off. Then I wrap them in the saran wrap. I put them in these bags, and I usually squeeze all the air out and seal them back up. And I can put enough meat in this freezer that will last me, this last time it's 3 weeks worth of meat. And I still had plenty of room. The other thing I've started doing, which is why I've been able to eat so well after this much time in isolation without having to go to the supermarket, is I buy frozen vegetables. When I open them, I wrap an elastic band around the opening and I put them in a Ziploc bag again. And I know that's a lot of plastic to be using, but it really makes things convenient. Everything is fresh. I mean, it's frozen, but it's not rotting in your fridge. There are a few things I do keep in the fridge. I buy lettuce for my salads, and avocados. My avocados will stay out on the counter until they reach a certain ripeness, and then I'll start storing them in the fridge. And they will last about a week on the counter and then about a week in the fridge, so I can get 2 weeks worth of avocados. I am down to my last 2 avocados in this fridge. But the fridge on this, I'm going to chip my painting, has a basket. Where'd you guys go? There we go. My creams, my things that I touch all the time are going to be here. And the foods that I don't use as much are down at the bottom. I actually have eggs down here. They're going to come out. But things that you just want to reach quickly, salad dressings, cheese, cream for my coffee, things that I'll use for cooking. So my ghee is in this basket. They're right up on top, easy to get to. And you got to make sure it's well appointed. So I've got my mustards, I've got my cornichons, I forgot to buy capers, there's eggs down there, there's cans of tuna. I keep my tuna in the fridge because who likes warm tuna? Do you want to make tuna and then put it in the fridge for an hour till it gets cold? No. So I just keep my tuna cold in the can, and then I can make a cold tuna salad very quickly and easily. Goat cheeses, got some mascarpone, and the cocoa on the counter with a drop of that stevia. Makes it a decent dessert when you need something sweet. The other thing I keep a lot of around is dark chocolate. Just a piece of dark chocolate after a meal. If you're drinking a glass of red anyway, the combination is kind of nice, generally speaking. There's something about the chocolate and the sugar that just kind of curb your appetite so that you don't get hungry later at night. I don't snack at night. I just have that little piece of dessert a little bit after dinner. So after I've eaten a bit, I wait. Then I have that chocolate. Just one little square, maybe 2 little squares, but just, a tiny amount, and it will carry you through. Oh. All right, guys, so that was the tour of my quarantine kitchen. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm about to cook steaks, but that's going to be another episode. Hopefully you enjoyed the tour. Hopefully you learned a little something. Maybe I'm just completely full of shit. Who knows? Yeah, so my channel is American Rover. My name is Max Powers. And hopefully, when I'm out of quarantine, I will be back out on the road in my Land Rover, camping, climbing mountains. We'll do a little travel, a little cooking, and those kind of things. Oh, and I'm going to try and cure my MS while I'm out there. So that'll be cool. Anyway, tune in if you like. Subscribe to my channel if you'd like. And I'll see you on the next one.